On today's episode of Lockdown Wild, it's July 28th. Kirill Kaprizov still hasn't put pen to paper. What gives?
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Lockdown Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Lockdown Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day. And we thank you for making Lockdown Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Lockdown Wild is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On today's episode of Lockdown Wild, we take a look at the Kirill Kaprizov contract negotiations, which at last update were in the initial stages with some ground to cover. But we'll take a look at some factors that have led to the negotiations being a little slow to go so far. We will also discuss the all-draft team for the Minnesota Wild, what the roster would look like if it was strictly based off of players that the Wild drafted that are still active. And we will take a look at which teams we think will fall out of it by the trade deadline this upcoming season so we can start to get a look at who's going to be available at the trade deadline. Just not trying to get super amped up about that, but it is fun to kind of take a peek ahead. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Lockdown Wild, host of Seth on Sports, and credentialed media member, joined by Alex Micheletti for a Micheletti Monday edition of the show. And Alex, it has been a hot summer so far. It's either hot or it pours, one of the two, but as far as NHL news goes, things have been pretty quiet, and that extends especially to the Kirill Kaprizov contract negotiations, which last update from Michael Russo, which was on the Daily Face-Off, he said the sides are not close. So things are going great. We got a little context to add to that, but that was fun. Just on top of everything else. Great, that's not going well.
The funny thing about that is all we've heard is, Craig Leopold said, or, when they've, talked about it with him, this was before, the season ended. He's like, we'll pay the most out of anybody. Don't worry about it. And then it's like, well, they're not close. So what could they possibly be, debating about if, the Wild can offer them, the most money, which is, very interesting. And he kind of really handpicked Tarasenko getting here, or convinced him to, move his no move clause. So, that was kind of interesting. So it does seem like he does want to be here. Just semantics, I guess. But it's just, when you hear not even close, that's something. And then, you got the Marco Rossi situation still to not even talk to him in a month, and his agent. There's just kind of bizarre situations right now.
Here's based off of what we know, and Russo did also mention this, that Kirill Kaprizov's been on vacation. Bill Guerin was also in Europe. And so you have probably have the initial figures that were proposed by both sides. And so if you are at that stage of it, there's going to be a gap in between the two. And you mentioned Craig Leopold saying that nobody's going to offer more money. I think this strictly comes down to term. I mean, it may be that there's a little bit of we want this, the Wild are offering that. I just don't get the sense, if the Wild have been so vocal about they are willing to pay him whatever, I don't think money's the hang up. I think what it comes down to is the Wild wanting to go the full 8. Kaprizov probably more like 4. This happened in his first contract negotiation, is that the Wild wanted to go longer term. Kaprizov and his camp and his agent, who is notoriously picky, they wanted to go shorter term. They settled on 5 years. It got done. And it got done actually when Kaprizov came to the United States under cover of darkness and just popped up in Florida and was like, oh, he's here. And it's like, okay, let's get this done. Ultimately, I think this is something, and Russo mentioned this, and I'll fully echo it. I think this is just something that's going to get hammered out when they get face-to-face. It's hard to do negotiations over the phone. Obviously, you're looking over figures, but they're going to get together. They're going to get in a room. They're going to get this done. Is it closer to 4? Is it closer to 8? That's going to be the big question. But I don't see a scenario where it's like the Wild only want to pay 11 or 12. Like, why say that there's no issue with the money, and then all of a sudden be like, oh, just kidding. We don't want to really pay full price. And the other part of this is there's another pretty notable player that is also working on a deal as well. 1,000% Kaprizov and his agent are waiting to see what Connor McDavid gets to influence their deal too.
Yeah, and it seems like from all we've read and heard that McDavid might take shorter term just because he doesn't know the full direction of is Edmonton gonna continue to be deep into the playoffs, where's the management, how are they going to help make the team better, surrounding him and Draisaitl and Hyman. So yeah, that's a good point on term there. Also, if these guys take shorter deals, the cap is going to continue to rise and rise. So they can try to, double dip there and, try to, get it even more money, if the cap keeps rising and, unless there, unless there's any other issues, but especially with, expansion, if that comes to fruition, that's going to add more money for the league as well. So
yeah,
I'm sure they have that in their back of the mind.
Because he's 28 right now. You go 4 years at 15 per. That gets you to 32, and you can still cash in on a 6-year deal for probably 16, 17 at that point. So that definitely factors in too. But I just I see the the sides are not close, and you see everybody just go immediately to, okay, is it time to panic? Like, what's the hold up? What's going on? Like, he's gonna leave. It's like I don't really feel the need to go down that well at this point.
Not
yet. If this does not get done before the season, I think there's probably going to start to look at the doomsday clock, at least look at it on the wall, maybe not start playing with the minute hand yet. But I wouldn't, if I was on vacation, I wouldn't want to be worrying about an extension. Like, I would just be focused on the vacation as opposed to, hey, here's my agent trying to give me figures. Like, no, we'll do that when I get back.
Yeah, he had a long season. He was out for so long with injuries, and he gets, you see it from social media. He's back in Russia with family and friends, and he looks like he's just having the best time. And it's a huge decision for him to make, especially if they go full 8 years. That's a lot, and I don't think he wants to negotiate during the season either. So
no,
if it goes up to right in preseason, if they get it done, that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter how. It just matters that it does happen. Mike Zimmer had the all-time famous quote when he was Vikings head coach. He said, "Don't tell me about the labor, just show me the baby." Like that's exactly how this applies. Like we don't need to go through the full process. Just show me the sign on the dotted line and we'll be fine. Now, as far as Rossi goes, still nothing going on.
Crazy.
So here are the things, just kind of quickly to go a couple minutes on this. I was on the national show today as well. So still very far apart as far as term, as far as AAV. There's still a wide gap between the two. Interesting, though, that, the Wild had Rossi out there and there were no bites because nobody else seems to be willing to pay him what he wants. And as far as the offer sheets go, it doesn't seem likely that one of those will happen, because if somebody offer sheets him, it's going to be at a number they're comfortable with giving him, which means that it's going to be a lower AAV that then the Wild will be comfortable with themselves. I think ultimately, Alex, I feel like this goes the same route as Bowen Byram did, where it's a shorter term deal to get him to unrestricted free agency. And then at that point, either the Wild will move him or he walks. Like, I think that's the ultimate outcome for this. I don't see this being a holdout situation, because that doesn't really do Rossi any favors. Like at this point, that's really the only card that is on the table still, unless he wants to sign a long-term deal to stay in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm with you. And even if he does sign, I mean, this relationship seems very broken, and I can't see him being comfortable long term, just based off what happened in the postseason there. You stick him with Yakov Trenin and Justin Brazeau. That even if he scored a couple goals, that just made zero sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they really tanked his value too, because they're like, we don't fully trust this guy in the postseason. So why would we want to make a trade and give up more assets than like, look, Vancouver offered that 15th pick and a player that we don't even know who it is, but it clearly wasn't good enough for Guerin, and Guerin doesn't want to move them to make the team worse. So they're stuck in a rock in a hard place right now. But his value across the league isn't great right now, and if he does sign, it might be like the Marty Necas situation where he got shipped off, after signing right away.
Yeah. And I get it from the Wild's perspective, because you look at what Matt Boldy, all the stuff that he does. Who would you rather have between Boldy and Rossi? I would lean Boldy.
Oh, 100%. And that, if they were to give him more than Boldy, that causes issues for Boldy and Boldy's camp, because they're like, what?
Yeah.
So it's not a good situation for anybody, and he's beloved in the locker room, but when your front office thinks differently, it's and the head coach, it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, it continues as the world turns. The contract drama just continues. So obviously, if there's any developments, we've got you covered. But I just wanted to, since it's been a few weeks since we've talked about it, I figured it would be something good to bring up on the Monday edition. But that's what we know at this point as far as the contracts go. Now, in segment 2, we will be talking about the all drafted team for the Minnesota Wild. If the Wild roster consisted of only players that the Wild drafted originally that were still active in the league. Our friends over at Locked On Kings actually put this together, and so we'll go through the roster and see if we agree with the picks, or if there are other players that we would like to see added to this list. That is coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Monarch Money. And if you are wondering where your money goes as quickly as it does, Monarch Money can make managing your money feel way easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We have hit the 3,500 subscriber mark. Let's get to 36 before the season starts, shall we? Just hit subscribe. It's all it takes is clicking the subscribe button, and you'll never miss out on a new episode. It's easy as that. Alex, my friend Eddie Garcia at Locked on Kings put together a list of Minnesota Wild players and what the roster would look like if the Wild had only players that they drafted or still in the league. Listen to this. It's pretty good. So obviously you'd have Kirill, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Matt Boldy is probably your top line. Second line of Jason Zucker, Marco Rossi, and Alex Tuch. A third line of Brandon Duhaime, Mikael Granlund, and Jordan Greenway. A fourth line of Eric Howla, Jack McBain, and Connor Dewar. On defense, Brodin and Dumba, Nick Seeler and Brent Burns, Zeev Buium and Carson Soucy, and your goalies, Darcy Kemper and Jesper Wallstedt. Would that roster beat the current Minnesota Wild roster?
No doubt about it. I would put Nick Leddy on there too.
Good call.
That's one that was missed. He's had a heck of a long career, and of course gets a Stanley Cup. Right after he gets moved. But that's another that I would have on there. But yeah, Granlund, what a turnaround he's had too. He's had a heck of a career and a bounce back, and gets paid by Anaheim now, and so good for Granny. And I think this that roster would beat the current roster for sure.
It'd be fun to do a couple of different iterations of this, and like the all free agent signings list, the all trades list. I think I might take a peek at that, because especially on the trade side, the Wild have made a bunch of pretty solid trades. Free agent signings have been okay. But I look at this, and I mean, the defense definitely is not as good as the current Minnesota Wild defense is, obviously, because you're missing Jared Spurgeon, you're missing Jake Middleton. The offense, though, is way deeper.
Yes.
Way deeper. And Darcy Kemper's no slouch. He's probably not Philip Gustafsson, but he's still a solid top half goalie.
And won a Stanley Cup. Yeah. So good for him. Yeah.
Won a Stanley Cup with an all-time Colorado Avalanche offense.
Right. Crazy.
It's interesting too, seeing Brent Burns on here, and it is going to be fascinating to watch his Colorado tenure unfolds. Obviously, Carolina was like, I think we have probably gotten to the end of the bottle here with the Magic, so we're gonna just not re-up with you. and he goes to Colorado, and you've got Cale Makar, who is one of the all-time power play defensemen in NHL history. Burns is going to play probably second power play and sheltered minutes defensively. So it'll be interesting to see what he can contribute to that roster. And Matt Dumba was, I believe, traded to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
To free
Dallas
up some
got
cap
him off
space.
the books somehow. Yeah.
I cannot believe that they found a buyer, and I cannot believe that it was Kyle Dubas.
He's in Gavin McKenna mode. He doesn't want Gavin to leave the state right from Penn State, Happy Valley, all the way to Pittsburgh in the 26 draft.
Erik Karlsson, Chris Letang, Ryan Graves, Matt Dumba, Connor Clifton, Parker Wotherspoon, Shea Ryan, and Alexander Alexiev is your D-core for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
And Tristan Jarry is still the number one goalie there.
Remember when he was in the AHL for like a month and a half, and then he came up, and his first start in like legitimately 20 games was against the Minnesota Wild, and he
on national TV. It was unbelievable.
Ugh, yikes. Just looking at some of the other pieces on this roster, it is interesting that you look at Jason Zucker and Alex Tuch, and we'll talk about this a little more in the third segment. But I think Alex Tuch is truly one of the one that got away.
Yes,
and
thanks to Matt Dumba.
Yeah, he was traded to keep Matt Dumba in Minnesota, and it's funny too because so much of Matt Dumba's trajectory changed because of that fight.
Right.
I think if he never suffers that injury, we probably right now are like, all things considered, that probably wasn't that bad of a deal, but he just lost it completely after that fight. And
the Trucks won 2 cups.
Yeah. Tuch has become a perennial 30-goal scorer. He is going to be a highly coveted commodity at the trade deadline with how the Buffalo Sabres are looking. But another one that is interesting is Jack McBain, who had an opportunity to try to go of it with this roster, and he felt like his path was blocked, and so he asked his way out. The Wild obliged, and they got a second-round pick for him in a trade, which was not too shabby.
Yeah, and he just got paid by Utah, but he didn't want to compete for a spot in Minnesota, which is always a red flag, but good for him getting paid. But interesting route he took to get to the NHL. Yeah,
it was a very, very strange way to get to the NHL, and his contract, as you mentioned, $4.25 million for the next 5 seasons. And for McBain, who is at this point with Utah, he's kind of a bottom 6 guy. He had 13 goals this past year, but he's still young. So we'll see how the rest of his career turns out, because it's not going to be here.
Nope. No, not at all.
We will finish by just taking a quick peek at some of the teams we expect, like the Buffalo Sabres, to be out of contention by the time the trade deadline hits, so we can start to get an idea as to who is going to be pursuable for the Minnesota Wild before the trade deadline. That's coming up as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We are your team each and every day as well. Alex, let's finish by just looking at a few teams that we think will be out of contention by the trade deadline. And so I'm just going to look at the divisions. I'll give you my thoughts as to who I think we'll be out of it, and we can certainly debate further as needed. But just starting over in the Pacific, San Jose obviously will be. Anaheim probably will be. Seattle, I could see making a little bit of a jump, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this upcoming season. And honestly, the other one's probably Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't understand the direction Vancouver is going in right now. Anaheim, they're, who knows with Coach Quinville there, they brought him in for a reason, but I'm with you too. I think they miss out, but they're improving. San Jose is going to be good in a couple of years, but they still haven't fully put everything together. But I love their young forward group. So yeah, I'm right there with you. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Vegas experience goes for Mitch Marner and if that works. So yeah, the Pacific is very interesting, and looks like from reports it's Kopitar's last run there in LA in the NHL. So we'll see if they have some inspiration in that to make the playoffs again.
Yeah, I know for a fact they're not going to go 31-6-4 at home again.
No.
Just bizarre.
Can they not? Then if they can avoid Edmonton, they should just decline the playoff spot if they end up with Edmonton again.
If they end up with Edmonton in the playoffs again, I'm going to decline it for them.
Right.
Like, that's just
don't put yourself through that.
No.
Rob Blake said, "I'm done." He took himself out because of that.
He tapped out. He's like, if we run into Edmonton again, I'm going to get fired. So I'm just gonna bow out gracefully this time. As far as the Central goes, Chicago will not. I don't think Nashville will, even though they are expecting to be much, much better this year. Good luck.
Right.
St. Louis, I don't think St. Louis is a playoff team. I mean, they had that amazing run of 13 wins in a row in the second half of the season. And that was really the only thing that buoyed them into a playoff spot. Like, you take that out and they're nowhere near a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So I don't see them. I do see Utah making some noise. I like what Utah has done this offseason. And as far as one of the top three in the division, Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, kind of feels like one of them will fall out of contention, but who, I guess, remains to be seen. I mean, Winnipeg having two players in Gustav Nyquist and Jonathan Taves that they're going to be expecting a lot from feels kind of dicey. And are you going to get MVP level goaltending from Connor Hellebuyck again? That could be, Winnipeg could be the one that suffers the slide by even just having, if Connor Hellebuyck is 85% of what he was this past year, like you're talking some games that Winnipeg, the only reason that they won was because he was just insanely good. You could see them fall to a potential wild card spot if they suffer a little slip.
I'm right there with you. And I mentioned in previous episodes too, the Adam Lowry injury is gigantic for them up the middle. So they're banking on Jonathan Taves, who hasn't played in a long time to step in right away, and that that's quite the gamble. Colorado, I still think they're going to have to make more moves because their bottom six they don't have a whole lot of depth, and Mackenzie Blackwood, the jury's still out on him. They signed him right away, but he wasn't great for them. So they're banking on him, to be their guy for the long term, and we'll see. They somehow have a lot of faith in him, but Colorado, they always just dominate the Wild, right? But there's some questions for sure.
Over in the East, in the Metropolitan Division, Philly is hoping to be better under Rick Tocchet. I think they will be, but I don't think it's going to be enough for a playoff spot.
No.
Pittsburgh is trying to be bad actively. Columbus is another one I could see taking a step back because so much that they did this season was just, kind of based on the emotional angle. So I could see them falling off the pack a little bit. And the New York Islanders probably are a team that I think wants to be. Like, obviously, because you're a New York team, there is a ton of pressure to be good, but I feel like they kind of, with a new GM, want to go in a different direction. And then Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, I think will all be teams, like, I'm penciling them as out right now. So the teams, and just kind of going through that exercise, the teams that kind of intrigue me as far as go get somebody off this roster go, Anaheim, the New York Islanders, and the Buffalo Sabres, because the two players we just mentioned, and Jason Zucker and Alex Tuch, that's not even counting the guy that I think we all want as the unicorn in Tage Thompson. But it feels like if you are looking for a deadline acquisition that can actually make some noise, Buffalo is number one.
Yes.
The Islanders have some pieces that would
Two
be,
guys.
Yeah.
Horvat and Barzal.
And if you could get for an Islanders team that, when they tap out, like if you could get them to retain on Barzal and get that 9.15 down to like 5, do it. I'd be perfectly fine with that. I just feel like the Islanders kind of look at this, like if I was a GM coming into this Islanders roster, I would say, yeah, we need to do some work on this.
And trading a guy like Dobson, that, he was a fan favorite there, and that's tough. But when you're a new GM, you have to make some bold decisions, and that was a tough one. But they, you never know. Patrick Waugh, he's got all sorts of just, it's always drama there. You remember he basically called out Anthony Duclair publicly, and that relationship, that's going to take some time to repair that. They have some great goaltending there, but we'll see if they can fully pull it together. But if they're out of it, Patrick Waugh might be gone, and because new GM and new GM Matthew Darch comes from a winning organization in Tampa Bay, and so he wants to win. But they might have to retool if they're out of it. And I've definitely called him out.
He also understands the value of building through the draft, and they've got 2 first-round picks. Could be more. They don't have any second-round picks currently, but you could recoup a few of them, just to say the least. And I do want to rehash as well for the Minnesota Wilds. They currently have 2 fifth-round picks in 2026. They've obviously got their first-round pick, but no second rounds. The second rounds have kind of dried up a little bit, but the first-round picks are still there. You've got a deep prospect pool that you can deal from, and honestly, just get somebody to retain on half, and you can make a lot of things happen with the cap space that they have, with what I would imagine the deadline cap space will look like. It's a team that doesn't have to make a ton of roster moves because they have flexibility, so they'll probably try to build up a little bit of cap space as the season goes on, but I saw Frank Cervalli, a couple of other insiders say that just because the Wild didn't make a ton of moves in the deadline, they feel like during the season is the time to be active, and I feel like they kind of have to.
No doubt about it, and especially if the standings in the Central are going to be so tight, they're going to have to make a big move, and to get a scoring center, scoring winger, preferably down the middle, because as we know, they continue to struggle with that. So, it's all signs pointing to Tage Thompson. But who knows with Buffalo, because they haven't traded him yet. So who knows what Kevin Adams has up his sleeve?
Mostly nothing. It's
Right.
an empty sleeve, and Kevin Adams is the kind of GM that is like, I didn't even realize you could keep cards up here. While other GMs are like, oh, I've got the ace up my sleeve. He's like, I didn't know you could do that. So we'll see. It's just kind of fun to start way too early speculating recklessly. I like to call it reculation, but it's fun to do every now and again. And just some teams to keep an eye on as we get closer to the season that could be out of the picture. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, before you head out for the day, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe on all of your favorite platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We have more player evaluations coming up the rest of this week. We've also got a crossover coming up later today with Locked On Avalanche, so be on the lookout for that. And plenty more fun surprises in store for you the rest of the offseason. And you can find all that and more right here at Locked On Wild. So do subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the fun with new episodes every Monday through Friday. As part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we are your team each and every day.